Welcome to Confirmation Bias, presented by the League Ambassadors.
I'm Ambassador Junior Blue, and when I was 8 years old, I had my heart ripped out of my chest when the Lakers lost in the Western Conference Finals on a last-second shot. And honestly, I don't think I ever recovered. And that's my confirmation bias.
And I'm Ambassador Chef Curry. The University of Virginia may very well have been the number one seed this NCAA tournament, but right here in Baltimore, UMBC is still number one in our hearts, and that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Red O, and from 1980 to 1990, every NBA player should ask for reparations for being made to wear those Daisy Dukes. And that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Ambassador Dad, and could you imagine if there was a 7'4" basketball player that could run the floor, shoot from the outside, and block shots? Oh, wait, there was. And that's my confirmation bias.
I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and if I was 7'4", shit, I wouldn't be able to do any of that shit. And that's my confirmation bias. Welcome to Confirmation Bias, hosted by
Hey.
This is Season 2, Episode 37 of our
Starting
show.
off how it needs.
Yeah, it is.
That's right.
As a reminder, you can follow us on social media. Our handle is at The League AM. That's Twitter, that's Facebook, that's Instagram. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. And finally, visit our website, which is theleagueam.com. If you couldn't tell by our confirmation bias, we have a very tall guest on our show. Mr. Ralph Sampson, 3-time College Player of the Year, NCAA, number 1 pick of the 1983 NBA draft. He was NBA Rookie of the Year, 4-time All-Star. And most importantly, in 2012, he was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Mr. Sampson, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you.
Thanks for having me. 6 years old, huh?
I was 8. You know what? I stayed up late and everything just for you to rip my heart out. I don't even know how I'm sitting next to you.
Well, we'll get started. You would have cried 3 days later anyway, so it's all right.
I'm still mad y'all didn't beat the Celtics.
Well, yeah, they cheated. But
That's called
The Boston Way.
That's also called foreshadowing. Dev.
Yeah, so obviously it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you. And we want to, tie into that knowledge a little bit and ask you a couple of questions. And first, I'd like to start off with, unfortunately, my brother already kind of mentioned it in his confirmation bias. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention,
what is UM? What does it stand for?
University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Baltimore
I mean,
County.
you say UMBC, C whatever. What's it stand for? I didn't get all that, so I want to make sure we got it right.
Yeah.
They're right.
Ralph is ready.
Yeah. I like it. Well, it's a little bit, but we wanted to ask you a question from a different perspective. We don't want to harp on that. So, do you think
harp?
ready? Do you think that was an aberration for a 16 seed to be the 1 seed, or is that more of the norm now?
It was going to happen sooner or later, especially in the era that we're in with basketball. But a couple of things you have to understand in that is that the coach of that team, Ryan Odom, I knew when he was 5 years old. His dad, Davey Odom, was my assistant coach at Virginia. Oh, wow. And he went on to coach Tim Duncan and Wake Forest and South Carolina and had a great coaching career. That's one thing. The Lyles kid's father played football, and the mother were at Virginia at the same time. So there's some Virginia history there. But you have to understand that UVA was not ranked in the beginning of the year. They had lost three key guys transfer at the end of the previous year, so they had new cast of characters. They lost 4 recruits to all the BS that was going on in Charlottesville over the summer. So they lost all the key recruits, no incoming recruits, 3 players, and still ended up being number 1 in the country. So a lot was riding on that, and then the stars lined up with that guy's school's name, whatever that just a lot. And they played the perfect game, and Virginia, wasn't ready to play. And Tony Bennett, after the game, in the press conference, just basically said, we got our tail beat, and it was nothing other than that. And, he went to the Final Four. He's the coach of the year. And I'm sure he got 18 million questions about how did that happen. But it was going to happen sooner or later because I think the evolution of the game is changing dramatically. It's the one and done. They're only going to Kentucky, Duke, and North Carolina, places like that.
Right.
But they're one and done. They got this year. They leave this year. They're going to be 1 and over.
Right.
They better go back to school. So I think that whole area is now coming to a close as well.
Now, me and Kenyon had a conversation a couple years ago, and we couldn't understand why this hasn't happened yet, considering the one and dones. But what do you think would stop a bunch of blue chippers getting together and going to a HBCU, a Howard or something like that, and just try to run the tournament and just try to make something happen like that? I mean, if they're only going to be one and done, and they know that they're only going to be there for 1 year, why not try something like that?
Well, they could. You got to have the right coach, the right system, the right thing in play. Before that happens, they got to be in a good league where they could get an automatic bid or win a conference title to go to an NCAA tournament. It will happen one of these days, but none of these young guys, especially African American kids, are believing in that system or that coach. He can't get me where I can go. Even if you have a player that's played in the league somewhere on that staff, they're still not a believer of that system yet. So it's going to happen, one way or another, sooner or later. But it just depends on the university that can put that together.
Are we sure it's not the pay gap? I'm pretty sure Kentucky plays a whole lot.
It's quite as cap. Yeah, there's definitely a big gap. 0 to 3. It's the nature of the beast. The nature of the beast.
Well, staying in that same vein, if the NBA were to eliminate age restrictions, do you think that would improve college basketball, where you have guys going straight to the league as opposed to being one and done, and then you have kids that are staying with their coach for a couple of years and being coached up?
Well, like this year, that kid's coming out of high school and going straight to the D League.
Darius
Bazin. So it's going to be tested sooner or later because, what can I learn by going to college for 1 year when I can go to the D League and learn a lot more? It depends on what team he goes to and what coach teaches him, because most of the D League coaches and staff are not NBA players. They are these Harvard grads and people that are assistant coaches.
Right.
These dudes, they really can't teach about the NBA as far as how to play it and really how to manage your life at that level playing night. And I don't care who you are. You cannot, unless you experience playing 3 games in 3 nights and traveling and flying and playing at a very high level, you can't teach that when you haven't done it.
Right.
So these guys coming out, especially high school, straight to the league, the league is so watered down right now, and the NCAA is the same across the board, especially with the one and done. That's why the Villanovas did very well this year. His school up there, as many bumps as he had, but played well.
I love that Kevin has no name now.
He's up there. You're not even out here. You're on the East Coast, so those guys can band together and play and be very effective because they are in the gym, being taught by, even the coach of Coach Odom Stature, but, his dad, trust me, was there with him all the time, telling him what to do and how to get it done. And so you can put together a team like that and make that happen. I mean, watch what Villanova does over the next 2 championships in 3 years.
Yeah.
Josh Hart was their best player last year, and he became a Laker. And
he's a great player.
Yes, sir.
Great. I mean, he's coming along.
Like, don't give him great.
Not yet. Right. Not yet. I mean, he's a good player, and I respect, but he's ready to play.
Yeah.
Right. Look at his year at the Lakers, and not like the ball kid. The ball had 3 or 4 injuries. Josh, he had one just recently because of the trouble, but his body's ready to play. And that's what 3 or 4 years will give.
And he's an end-to-end player.
Yeah, he can go. Yeah, once he gets his shot down and consistently shoots a 3, I mean, it's going to be a different story.
So the takeaway is you feel like the college game is going to be better as a result of this, but then because you hear former professionals when they talk about the state of the game, they always use that phrase "watered down." What does that mean? Like water?
That means them bums can't play. I mean, just to the point blank, we all talk in the locker room. I mean, can they play or can they play? You know, they are. You know, give me a name. You guys may do it on the Utah Jazz.
Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert.
Okay, you got two.
Ricky Rubio.
Orlando Magic.
Aaron Gordon.
Okay, you got one. You can't give me anybody else.
Jonathan Simmons. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Miami.
Dragic, Whiteside,
Okay.
James Johnson.
Okay.
Winslow.
Bam from Kentucky. He was
Bam Adebayo.
I was just saying he
I
was
like
one,
him.
but so some people can't remember or know one player on some of these teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Atlanta.
Well, everybody go to Atlanta. Everybody go right to Atlanta. You ain't know the coach.
Schrader and
It's an
Collins.
NBA G League team.
It is.
And I'll give Charlotte, except for Kemba and Superman.
Yeah.
Who else they got?
Platoon.
Kid
Who else they
Gilchrist.
got?
Yeah.
No. Who else they got?
Who else they got?
You been waiting for that kid. You want Kid Gilchrist in college?
Yeah. I like
Kid Gilchrist,
Yeah.
no jumper, first round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, how's he in the league?
So more.
I mean, I'm picking him as my. I mean, who else was in that draft that you could have picked?
Yeah.
But you picked this guy that can barely shoot the basketball, particularly. I mean, you had to see that somewhere down the stretch. He plays hard. He's in the league, but Charlotte, are they in the playoffs? No, I don't think so. So just the nature of the beast.
So do you think that's a result of fundamentals being lost due to the AAU culture?
Yeah, it got something to do with it. I mean, AAU's trying to make a difference in that because now you have all the shoe companies, basketball camps, clinics, skill clinics, and AAU's trying to
Say that.
maneuver and come back and start teaching the skills because no one teaches skills at that level. That's why kids can jump from college to the NBA and go to the D League. And I mean, you got number one picks in the NBA going to the D League.
Right.
Just to get some minutes and some training and some game time.
Now, you were a number one pick. Now, there was a story out that you had the opportunity to come out your junior year, and you decided to stay. And there was a coin flip, I believe, between the Clippers and the Lakers.
No, I had the opportunity to come out in high school. I had Red Auerbach come to my family's house with $1 million in a briefcase and say, you can play for the mighty Boston Celtics. And that was from my senior year in high school.
The devil always comes with a smile.
Freshman. in a green suit. I had greenbacks in his pocket, so it was good. But it was all good. So, but he came, and so as the history goes, Kevin McHale wouldn't have been a Boston Celtic. Literally.
Wow.
And we played him my freshman year in Virginia, and we beat him in the NIT championship. And every year after that, I had a chance to come to the NBA my freshman, sophomore, and junior season at UVA. And one of those years, I was between the Lakers and the Indiana Pacers, and I didn't want to end up in Indiana. So I just decided to go back to school because of the coin flip. If I knew the political things that I know now, I'd have came out, and I would have been a Laker, and James Worthy wouldn't have been here.
Right.
And Isaiah Thomas may not have been in Detroit the previous year.
Oh, the
Domino
ripple effect.
effect.
Yeah.
Hey, that
But
butterfly
it's-
effect, man.
Me and James and Isaiah go way back. We the same high school class, so we knew each other from the circuit. They would call it, man, you coming out? You coming out? If you come out, I gotta stay. I gotta go. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be the last one picked. So
Man.
I know I had to kind of I know it could be top two picks or whatever it may be, but Isaiah wouldn't have gone probably to Detroit, and I didn't want to end up Detroit at that point in time, and then. James wouldn't have gone to the Lakers.
Yo, 3 Hall of Famers. Talking about when you coming out.
Could you imagine if James was in the '84 class too?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Lord.
James Worthy, he was in the '83 class.
Yeah.
Again, my high school class, and I'll just give you a rundown, was James Worthy, Dominique Wilkins, Isaiah Thomas, Clark Kellogg, Antoine Carr, Sam Bowie, Tim Andre. I could give you a list of 20 guys that were.
That's your high school class.
That's my high school class
That's
nationwide.
insane.
Ray McCoy, Quentin Daly, Thurl Bailey, Wittenberg, and Lowe.
Thurl Bailey.
So it goes on and on. It's 25 guys deep that he's played in the league and or over half of them in the Hall of Fame.
Wow. All right, I have a question for you. With the way the NBA is now, there's no real big man that dominates in the post. So my question to you is, do you ever think we'll get back to a traditional big man in the post?
Well, you got one coming in the Beeb. I mean, he's traditional in the post, but also can shoot a three. So you got to do both
Okay.
in this league if you want to get the ball and score. But I'll take you back to a kid that played at Duke University, Jaleel Okafor, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
His footwork in college was amazing, right?
Right.
And he can score against anybody.
Right.
Where's he at now?
He's
Riding the bench in
sitting
Brooklyn.
next to Jimmy the Cricket in
He's
Brooklyn.
in
He's in
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
He's in Brooklyn.
Next to the
so
number
he gets
2 pick
traded.
from that year.
Right, exactly. Who was the first pick that year?
Who was that?
To the Lakers, to your guy.
It was D'Angelo Russell was
Yeah.
2.
Cat.
And
Yeah, Karl Anthony
Towns
Towns.
was 1.
Well, the Lakers got no, Cat was
D'Angelo-
afterwards.
no,
it was
Cat was
D'Angelo
number 1.
Russell, and then Okafor was in that draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was 3.
So
Okafor was 3 years.
So he's really good. Footwork is amazing in the low post. He can't get on the court.
Yeah.
He can't play the mid post. He can't play the pick and roll. He can't shoot a mid range jumper, and he doesn't play defense. So he comes out 1 year of college, right? What are you gonna do? How long are you gonna be in the league? So he should have stayed another year in school or whatever, which would have helped his game and understand it. But he also, his first year in the league, he's 18, 19 years old. He does what? He goes to a club in Philly
And yeah.
without ID, and then now you're labeled, and then the team hates you, and then all of a sudden you get shifted to Brooklyn of all places. Brooklyn now has become like the Clippers used to be when nobody wanted to go there.
What you mean used to be?
Siberia.
They still.
Siberia.
They better now. I mean, Golden State was Siberia at first at one time, but the Clippers were that forever, so nobody wanted to play there. But you got that. But Nabeeb is coming, and then I think you got Karl Anthony's playing. You got Anthony Davis that can play post up, but he gets them down the court. So you got some bigs that can play.
He
but
get hurt every time he post up.
Well, he don't want to bang like that, so it's all good. But Nabeeb wants to bang and play, and he know that he gonna kill everybody once he gets healthy enough, if he ever gets healthy enough to play.
So it's almost like the response, like if you're a big man and you want to play in the NBA, your role has actually expanded. Not necessarily from your perspective, because you sort of had that floor game, which we'll get to a little bit later. But if you can't just expect to just get down in the low post and think that you're going to dominate. Basically.
Can't be Shaq.
Well, I mean, Shaq was a Will Chamberlain style dominant, but the Beeb can get in and dominate anybody because he knows how to play. He's got all the skills. He has the footwork. He has a shot. He can just bike somebody down. Y'all get out the way. He's gonna kill everybody. I don't know how they're gonna stop him. And then you can almost zone him up on defense if you can put him on the weakest offensive player, which he can play anyway. I mean, he could get 30 points and 20 rebounds a night because he's going to be that good. But again, can he stay healthy?
The only thing that's gonna stop him is a screw loose in his foot.
Right, right. I mean, you got to stay healthy. But the question, he's young, he's not mature body-wise, so his body hadn't felt. So he's probably still growing up and out, and his body's not responding yet because they put him in those stressful situations. Big guys take longer to mature body-wise, not just mentality, mental, but body-wise, they take a little bit longer. I mean, let's look at Anthony Davis. Talk about him. How many years? If he came out in 4 years, this would have been his what year in the NBA?
Right, like
Second?
Second or third year.
Yeah.
So it's taking him 5 years, almost 5 years now to become what? An all-star and dominant. Now he's dominant, but it took him that long to do it. But if he stayed in school, he'd lift the weights more and played more games, less game on the stress, and the body wouldn't have been as stressed playing that 82-game schedule.
Might have shaved that eyebrow.
Yeah, at least color one on myself.
Well, hopefully, Mr. Sampson, you and I can put our early differences
What's your name?
aside. Because Kevin.
Oh, okay, Kevin. Okay, got you. I got you now.
I got some questions for you about your NBA career, but sticking along the lines of what you said, that during your Hall of Fame speech, you mentioned, you spoke about you valuing the game and how important that was to you. Do you think that players today who, like you mentioned, lack fundamentals in many aspects of their game, do you think that that's the case because they don't truly value the game the same way?
Well, they don't think about valuing the game, but they do like fundamentals in life. The mere fact that all they really want these kids to do is just play basketball, and everything else is managed and handled for them. They don't know how to deal with adverse situations, especially on the court. So I mean, I know kids that when you got chefs in the arena and private planes, and all you going to the hotel and sleeping and eating, which is fine. You have no other responsibilities than playing basketball, which these young kids, some of them need that from that perspective. But, the responsibility falls back on the team, and they do not give them the necessary tools to be successful on and off the court. They just want them to play basketball, and that's not the way it should be, because then they don't have any responsibilities whatsoever, and really don't know how to act when it comes down to playing. I mean, I'm gonna go with this guy on my right, the Lakers. I mean, the bum of a coach that they got. I don't know his father, what it would be, but I mean, the other night I watched him against Milwaukee. 10 seconds ago, 15 seconds ago, he should have called a timeout. And it was down to, but I got a young team that set offense. I don't call a timeout. They expect somebody to get something done, and then the second time to call a timeout, where I got a very young team that I need some structure, and I'm gonna let them go, and I'm trying to teach them something. So. You got to be very careful with young players.
You gonna stop talking about my coach?
Hey, Omar, you see my face? I'm like, oh,
It's 3 Laker fans up in here.
I'm just telling you my opinion, but it's the truth. I can go to Google and some of the. Did you watch the NCAA tournament when and he's one of my coaches that recruited me at Kentucky, Leonard Hamilton from Florida State with 10 seconds to go.
Leonard Hamilton.
And the lady asked him, well, why didn't you call a timeout? And Charles and the crew was behind the scenes just joking him, whatever. You should call a timeout. He was down 4.
Right.
He should have fouled or called a timeout
Right.
and advanced the ball, whatever. He didn't. He just let the clock run out.
Yeah.
So, he's been coaching
long time.
for a long time. So,
And this is only his second year. He all right. He gonna learn.
he gonna learn what?
Come on.
You gonna learn what?
The only thing he learned.
To call it goddamn time. You better learn from your mistakes and get gone.
Well, you really think Magic is gonna let him coach that team when LeBron comes here?
you about to start a different conversation,
another
Kevin.
show,
Take it,
right?
Kevin. Take it. He about to start a different one.
I'm just, he wants to go with the Lakers. I'm just,
So
Okay,
my next question
we'll
for
come
you
back
is
to him in a minute. Go ahead.
Sit still. Excuse me. Sorry.
I would say in the last, let's say 30 years, is there one player, in your opinion, whose game reminds you of your own?
I don't really look at people's games. I think the best that ever played is Bill Russell. Because you talk about the best, you talk about championships, so nobody can compete with that. But, I like Kevin Durant, I like Anthony Davis. Neither one of them can post up really well. From that
reason
standpoint.
I asked is because this past weekend we were talking about your career and just leading up to this whole interview, and David Robinson's name was thrown out there just for his size, his ability to play both ends, his ability to run the floor. Do you see that comparison at all?
There's some. I know David well, and he wears number 50 because of myself, and he'll tell that story. He went to the Naval Academy at 6'3" or 4", ended up being 7 foot tall, and growing very rapidly. But he had some post-up game, but not a whole lot. I think I probably had some better attributes in the post. He could shoot the jump shots as well, but there's some similarities. I would agree.
Okay. Now that I know that you're being completely honest with us, I'm comfortable asking you this question. So look, I wasn't alive during your NBA career in Houston, so I was forced to do some research of my own. And many NBA heads believe that your former coach, Bill Fitch, should be in the Hall of Fame. But there's a bias amongst the guys here, I guess, that we need you to either confirm or deny. So I'm going to just come right out and ask you, how awful of a coach?
Well, the first thing, if you look back, how many wins and losses did he have? That would tell you, should he be in the Hall of Fame? When you are able to coach Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and that crew, and come down and coach myself and Keem Olajuwon, you really don't have to do much coaching.
And still have 1,100 losses?
Right, well, but, that, again, that Cleveland, these other places as well, but
They count.
they count. And that's why to some extent that Hall of Fame stature is not quite there yet. But he I can tell you story after story. We'll be here for 2 days. But when I first got to Houston, we called him Captain Video because he made you look at every video that he ever coached. And I was, a rookie, and I would go to his condo, which was right beside the arena, and I watched Larry Bird tapes and McHale tapes. Whatever. I'm like, okay, great. But it gave me the knowledge that I needed to play at that level. So when we got on the court, we didn't worry about him coaching. So once we knew that going in after my second year, going in my third year, we said kind of forget Bill Fitch, and he can't play forwards. He can call timeouts, and he can make substitutions. He can make substitutions, but at that point in time, it was us, going to work and playing the way we know how to play and situations because we were prepared. He would prepare you to play an offensive structure, but he couldn't play for you.
So he was bad enough that you guys didn't listen, but he was good enough to realize y'all didn't have to listen to him.
I mean, he was smart enough to know that, hey, we can tell Larry Bird, don't shoot the ball. I mean, you tell Keem Olajuwon, don't shoot the ball. So he was smart enough to run back in that day, just like everybody runs certain, offensive set. Back then it was UCLA, the flex cut, whatever. So everybody ran the same pretty much offense. So all you got to do is show us what to do. And then we had our tweaks, and then our athletic ability kind of took over after that because, we could run, and we had guards that could throw lobs, and King could post up and run. So, I mean, after that point in time, all you got to do was give us a little bit of structure, which is what he gave us.
All right. So you mentioned the Celtics. So in the series that you guys played in the '86 finals, you were, let's say, in consistent foul trouble. But
How you
in
know
your
that?
opinion, I did my research. Foul trouble. Do you think the refs had it out for you, specifically because y'all were playing Boston?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we were very aggressive coming out of the Lakers series, and they had a couple days more to rest. But,
So you were hacking because you retired?
No, we wasn't hacking. I was hacking because I wanted to beat somebody's ass.
Well, now you mentioned it.
Yes! See that Virginia come out?
I got it. We all want to know what exactly did Jerry Seachley say to you that caused you to just swing?
Did you look at the tape?
You can be honest with us.
Did you look at the tape?
We've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, I did. I saw
what
it from
did
the
you say?
baseline,
What did
from
you
the
say?
back line. I saw you turn around and swing that 9-foot wingspan in his face.
you got to go back a couple minutes before that. You would see certain things that happened. So
Talk about it.
we're getting ready to. It's all good. The biggest thing that came out of that. So I was at that point in time. I didn't have but one foul. So let's get it right. And I had about 15 points and about 8 rebounds at that point in time as well. And I was only in the
Numbers don't lie.
I was only in the first half.
So I was cooking them motherfuckers.
I was only in the first half. So it was all good at that point. So Danny Ainge and Jerry Seacey would come around
Dirty
off
son
the
of a
pick,
bitch.
and they would hit you in the nuts. And I'm like, okay, great. That's one time. And about the third time when I go up for a dunk on a lob, they hit you again, this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden they come down on the play, and I think we were playing defense, and Jerry Seacey did it again. So it just one of those points in time that the adrenaline was flowing, so we had to go to work. And then my thing was, they might have beat us for the series, but you damn sure wasn't going to win on my home court. So I'm like, okay, great. And I came ready to play, whatever, and then we ended up winning the game and going to Boston and losing. But the fight broke out. You stood there, you see my sisters on the sideline like, kick his ass. So it was just a lot going on in that game, and it was fun to play. It was a game fun to play in.
That's awesome. That's a great story. I want to ask you about a topic that's coming up. You went to UVA with Val Ackerman, and who, along with Nancy Lieberman, they're some of the pioneers for like women executives and in coaching men's basketball. And now you've got Becky Hammon, who's actually on the staff of the Spurs, and she's a popular head coaching candidate. Do you think that a woman could effectively coach a man in men's basketball?
She's got to be a rare breed of a woman and be hardcore enough to take the punishment of the locker room and the playing from the young kids saying whatever. I mean, only the reason San Antonio could do it because you have Popovich and he's going to gain that respect.
Right.
So she could take on something there as well. Nancy has tried it with the Kings and
Right.
Just the management and whatever just didn't quite work out. For her, she's a great person. I know her very well. She could coach anywhere that she wanted to if they gave her the opportunity. So you're going to have the right owner
Yep.
and the right players to merge that so that they can be successful with a female coach that would be able to potentially be there and try to win a championship.
Do you think would it be easier if it was men's college, or do you think that's harder? Because you talked about the combination of the right ownership, the right.
Well, it won't happen in men's college basketball.
Really?
It's just because equal gender, and it won't happen in college basketball. On the other side, you got Gino Auriemma that's coaching
Right.
women, so it should happen if somebody would give it a chance. But I don't think any university out there in their right mind at this point in time would give that a chance. But if somebody does, but they have to have the right coach to do that, and they would have to take, a historical women coach like the Notre Dame coach and send her to coach Notre Dame men's or whatever. But I mean, if I was the AD, I would find the right one that would try, because recruiting wise, I didn't go in any arena and get whatever. But the kid's gonna say, how you gonna get me to the NBA? You never played there.
The
so
correct
how you gonna
answer
get
to
that?
both questions is no.
No, it could happen.
It ain't.
If that school in Maryland could beat Virginia, it could happen. It could happen.
Touche. All right, let's take it to your time in Houston. You played next to a Hall of Famer by the name of Mr. Olajuwon. Give us a story that you haven't told before about Mr. Olajuwon. And then on top of that, did you know he was going to be that good?
Well, I played beside a couple Hall of Fame, but I played with Elvin Hayes my first year. He great ambassador, great teacher. Hakeem Olajuwon, obviously, with him, but you could see the athletic ability that he had. I mean, he didn't play college basketball until he got to college, and he was a goalie at soccer. So that's where the footwork came in. But as the story goes, he just evolved in playing with Elvin Hayes. Elvin Hayes had the what shot, the turnaround baseline fadeaway, two dribble to the middle, turnaround. That's where the Hakeem dream started with Elvin Hayes, and then Moses Malone took it to a different level, playing in Fondy Rec Center every day, and then beating him up a little bit and playing and developing all the other moves. So once he got it down, he wasn't that way his first couple years in the NBA, but when he got it down, he worked at it every day. He patented every day. He worked with those guys, played summer all day long, and then I think David Robinson still having nightmares.
Cooking his ass.
Doing this thing. So you can see the greatness at that point because the athletic ability was there. And then the mentality was there, because once he knew he was good, I mean, I played with him in the story you can refer to is we played his first time in the All-Star game. It was my second or third time. And he's like, big fella, I didn't play many minutes. And I say, look, we all didn't play many minutes. You got Kareem, you, me, Magic, Larry, all these other guys, and everybody, you got to play equal minutes. He's like, I want to play all the minutes. But he felt that what he wanted, because he wanted to be one of the best out there. So he didn't understand that the first couple of years going in an All-Star game. So, but he's a great person, great human being, good teammate, good friend. And once he started to understand the game, he couldn't stop him.
Right. I mean, we're going to work on that Olajuwon accent that you just get.
I used to get it a lot better. But
He sound like he was from Virginia.
No question.
Now, we all know how great Olajuwon was. But to us, it speaks to, and you can speak, we want you to speak to it, the greatness that's not spoken on a lot of being 7'4" and asked to be played the power forward position, and how good you played the power forward position at 7'4".
Well, I mean, when we were in the draft to draft Hakeem, they came to me and said, we're going to want to draft Olajuwon, you're going to need to move the power forward. So I'm like, okay, but I thought my abilities to be freer on the court and dribble the ball, it was fine, because I didn't have to be in that low post getting beat up every night. But I went from scoring 24. It's a stat guy up there probably can give it to me. 20-some points and 10 rebounds a night as a rookie, to getting 21 and 8, 9 with it, because I was further away from the basket. But I enjoyed the opportunity to go play power forward and get up and down the court as well, because then at that point, trying to transition, every team in the NBA had to have a power forward that can get up and down the court, and a center that was big enough to guard the Kings. So the Twin Towers kind of transited. So that means Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and then every team then started getting two big guys in the front line, because they couldn't compete.
Wow. Okay. Now, doing our homework, knowing what we know, or thinking what we know, we know you don't like to play the what if game. but we would be remiss by not asking you, what if you played today?
Oh, we'd be killing people. I make $500 million.
Talk your shit.
It's just happening. I mean, I've been told that a number of times that your game could transition into today's game. Okay, great, but I mean, it can handle and I go back and have to kind of realize and look at some video like, okay, you dribble the ball off the court, and I only dribbled the ball court because I couldn't get the ball any other way. From high school to college, I mean, they want to throw it to you. You might well rebound and dribble it and do what you can do with it. But I would love to play in today's game because we would defend. I mean, and the mentality as well. I mean, those little guards that's coming down through the middle, it wouldn't happen. They go get hit, block shot, or I probably got kicked out a couple games by now this year, whatever. But I mean, I can remember Kevin Johnson coming down through the lane, played with the Phoenix Suns.
Don't remind me.
So I mean, we literally with myself and I played at Golden State at that point in time. He came down the middle and like, nah, I'm just tired of letting you come down through the middle lane. The guards couldn't guard you. So we're going to not deliberately take you out, but we're going to make it hard for you to come down through here again.
So Isaiah Thomas wouldn't be going to the hole.
No, Isaiah would.
No, I'm talking about the little today.
Oh,
5'9" Isaiah. 5'9" Isaiah.
That would be an insult, right? Like, why are you coming?
I mean, Muggsy Bogue and Spud, they never came down through the hole like that. They're going to stay out there where they need to be. They come down through there. They pass and soon they get to the field, but they're not coming down to the hole. I mean, Rick Mahorn and Lambert, you ain't coming down through there. I mean, that's not
I'm so glad you brought that up because that definitely confirms a bias that we've probably had our whole lives. That NBA players do argue that eras were different. Like guys talk about who's playing now, could they survive back in the 80s and the 90s? Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, the LeBron of the world, which is a specimen in his own right, he could survive. Kevin Durant. I mean, guys could to play, but some of those guys, I mean, it's only the elite ones can play. I mean, you got to understand, you want to play one night against Julius Erving. I don't care if you're a three-spot. One night against Dominique Wilkins. One night against Larry Bird. And the list goes on in that small forward spot because it was the most. Charles Barkley's in that crew. I mean, the guys go on and on and on with that small forward spot. So Kevin Durant right now that play against those guys night in night out. I mean, you probably saw it. You saw the dunk with Julius when they won the championship on Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow! Talk your shit, Ralph. Wow!
I'm just going, Doc. I mean,
Come
that's Doc.
on! He King Petty, ain't he?
That's Julius Erving. That's Julius Erving. I mean, and he was older in his career. I mean, he did that on Bill Walton when they played in the playoffs.
That was nasty.
So I mean, and Doc was going. I mean, he's going to take you out and take your heart. So I mean, guys today don't have that attitude.
They sure don't. It's very few killers left.
No.
Kobe was one of the last ones. There's probably one left, and that's Westbrook, who got that killer attitude.
Westbrook is rough.
Take shit personal.
I mean, if you ever see him in person, he looks big on the court, but he's a little guy. I mean, physically.
Yeah.
But that boy attacks the basket like none other, in this day and age, and he wants to kill people when he plays.
He'll kill his teammates in the process.
You play with me or get the hell.
And then if you leave, you my enemy.
Yeah. So that's nature of the beast.
Right. So I'm gonna try and preface this question. So
I'm just glad Omar done drinking Hennessy right now.
I understand your respect for Mr. Russell. We understand why. But fuck prefaces. In my opinion,
what's your confirmation bias?
My confirmation bias is there is not a player on this planet who's had a better basketball career than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Define career.
From high school to NBA. He lost 2 high school games. I think he won 3 NCAA because they wouldn't allow him to play as a freshman. He's won just as many titles as Jordan. No one has won as many as Russell. But I think you would agree in eras that Russell probably wouldn't have won as many as he did if he played in a different era. Now, just to put all that aside, if you had to pick
On the court,
not as respect, not as just as player, on your team, Russell or Kareem?
I mean, you have to define the ability to be the best ever. And if you start the franchise, you can start with either one of them. But
Gun to your head.
You have to understand the era that Bill Russell played in and the color barriers and the things he had to go through playing in Boston.
Which is where the respect comes
Is
from.
where the respect comes from. But if you're finding championships, it's got to be Bill Russell.
Well, if that's the case, Robert Horry is better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, so that's why I'm not.
Well, I'm just saying. But if you find the statistics and history, it's Kareem.
Which is why I asked, gun to your head, if you had to
I'm
pick
still taking
one.
Bill Russell because I know,
Sucker.
I know, and I'll tell you why. When I was in college, I had a chance to, because I was in a communication class and I had my own radio show in college, I had a chance to interview Bill Russell. And I had a chance to meet him and go out with him and to understand the stories that he has. And then, in a lot of part of my NBA career, he was the general manager at the Sacramento Kings, and he got me to Sacramento. And we had the best time, the best stories, and his laugh and everything he has, his character. If you had a chance to sit with him, you would understand why I think he's the best.
Can't
ever.
get past the respect, huh?
No.
And I understand it.
I respect Kareem, because I padded some of my game after him or whatever, and he played in that era as well and did some things. But, I think he could have done some things differently other than playing basketball on the court, whatever that, would have transitioned him to being the best ever. And I don't think he gets the respect that's due to him, with Michaels and this and that, but because those guys paved the way in the 70s to play the game the way it is today as far as the level it is. But people, who's better? LeBron's trying to be. LeBron could be the best point history guy. He could be Kareem. He's 30-some thousand. He's got like 7,000 more to go, 8,000 to go. He's 15th year. Kareem played 20. He scored over 2,000 points this year already. So logistically, he could match that or beat that. Is they gonna make him the best ever? Because how many championships has he been to and how many has he won and lost? They can always compare to Mike. Like I said, Robert Horry got 7.
I don't count the points. I think that's part of the whole to me. Always when we talk about best ever, I think of the whole eyeball test. I'm picking, if I got to pick somebody, I'm picking Jordan. But that doesn't mean he had the best basketball career of all time.
What did Will Chamberlain do in high school and college?
I have no idea.
Okay, then when you go find that out, you give me the best.
I know he lost more than 2 games. I bet you.
Maybe not.
Kareem lost 2.
San Francisco. Didn't he go to?
Yeah,
he lost 2 highs.
He wouldn't have UCLA winning championships. I guarantee that with John Wooden. But I get that.
Right.
Hey, and Wilt did die as a member of the 20,000 club. So
20,000 plus club.
Hey, it's touches all around the night.
20,000 plus club.
He wins.
Oh man, Mr. Sampson, we thank you so much. Golf clap for Mr. Sampson for just hanging out with us. We want to move to our hottest topic, which is the national championship game, which is why we thought it was fitting actually to have you on. Last night, the Villanova Wildcats thumped the Michigan Wolverines. What was it? I think 79-62, I believe, was the score. I'm calling them Double D from Delaware. Dante. D.
Yeah.
Don't look at me.
The redheaded.
Dante D.
Nah.
You talking about the guy who got taken down a couple pegs today? Is that guy?
DiVincenzo?
DiVincenzo.
Yeah, he was the most outstanding player. He was on fire. He was definitely lit. But yeah, I don't think was that what you expected, Ralph?
Well, you watched the game and you watched Villanova over the last 4 or 5 games, and they just came together as a team, pretty much at the right time.
Double digits throughout the entire tournament.
But, Michigan at the beginning game had the game in their grasp, and they were playing a game. If you remember the first 2 plays of the game, Brunson goes down to the post and posts up the little guy.
Yeah.
And say, I'm going to take your little tail down here. And scored the first 4 baskets for Villanova. Villanova then goes back down, and then Michigan can run their offense and run their sets, whatever, and control the game. But once they stop doing that, and then Villanova can get up and down the court.
Lost tempo.
They lost their tempo, and it speeded up the game. They can't play that way.
Yeah.
And then Villanova wasn't making any baskets until DiVincenzo got in the game.
Right.
And when he hit that first one, it was a wrap.
Yeah.
And then he's shooting NBA threes and scoring and rebounding and dunking and cutting.
Coming off
and then now everybody's got excited, and realistically, Villanova, 2 championships in the last 3 years. they have a NBA style, almost like the Golden State Warriors to some extent. They shoot more threes than they shoot twos.
Yeah.
So they want to get in that run and gun game with the team that they have, and the coach knows that. So once they got open and free, Michigan was in trouble.
Do you guys think that Michigan were hurt by the fact that they didn't play a seed above a 5 the entire tournament? And
I don't think
tested?
so. I think Coach Beilein's a great coach, and I think they wasn't battle tested with the likes of Villanova. And Kansas wasn't battle tested with the likes of Villanova because them boys just got them down the court and ran and jumped and played defense. And when they got it turned on against Michigan, it was over.
Right.
So it wasn't a great game to watch, but for Villanova fans, it was a great game because they won a national title. Yeah. But Michigan was, there. They were lucky to be there in some games they played. But they played in the semifinals out here in with the West Regionals in the Staples Center. I watched them play, scored 99 points. They were jumping and running and lathered and the whole deal. They didn't bring that game to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Shit, if Chicago would have kept going to the German, they might not
know,
have got past him.
He was going
to the state. He was
going to work.
He was damaging them every time. And that freshman, he's going to be
only a
nice next
freshman.
year.
Yeah. Okay, well, before we get out of here, is there anything, Ralph, that you want to plug? What are you working on now? How can people reach you if they want to reach out to you?
No, thank you guys for having me on. It was a blast, even from where you at, Maryland?
Baltimore.
with some Jim Beam in the back.
He called you a drunk.
That was your boy calling you that. It's all good.
Oh, shit.
So, I enjoyed being on. Man. We're doing some radio shows in the Virginia area as well, and we hope to have some podcasts out soon, so stay tuned. But thanks for having me.
Okay, before we get out of here, tomorrow's the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Wanted to ask you, where do you stand? How do you feel about athletes taking a public stance on social matters?
You go through history and you look at the Muhammad Ali's of the world that took a stance. Kareem has taken stance.
Yep.
Jim Brown has taken stance, when necessary. You got to have thick skin to be able to stand up like that and take stance. LeBron is doing some of that now. And I think together, if just think about all the African-American or even players or whatever, you can band together and take those stands like the kids have done in Florida. You can be pretty powerful. But you don't hear the Jordans and the Magics. Just think, if Magic and Jordan could own the team together, although they have different brands, they want to be rivals, or came together on a cause, that cause would be pretty powerful in his own right. And Martin Luther King, 50 years later, the assassination, he still exists.
Yep.
And there's some of the same issues that still exist today that was back then. And so you got to come together as a country to some extent and use that platform. But go back and look at it. Everybody has a movement, a march. Who started that? Back then they had the marches, and now you got marches, and everybody's doing it all over the world. But it's anything being changed and done when you march. You try to get things done. Yes, things happen. Then it kind of goes away. But the unit now is not prevalent as it was with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. It's a whole unit now. It's bigger than just the black and white thing. It's bigger than just the cultural thing. It's too big. So you got to have a whole unit to get together, to come together and make a difference.
Thank you so much. We will get out of here on that note. As a reminder, Confirmation Bias, we're twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Follow us on social media at theleagueam.com. Once again, thank you, Mr. Sampson, for having you.
Thank you, sir.
Being here, and we will see you next week. Cheerio.
Them days you do.